Okay, it is 5 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting for the jail committee to get to order. You should have received a copy of the agenda, and so I'm going to ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's just clarify, the members of the committee are Ray, Larry, Bill Davis, Marty, McClendon, and
Seth.
Okay. So, now, you also should have received...
I don't believe I'm on this committee. I don't believe I am.
You don't believe you are? Okay. Okay. You just don't want to vote, right?
I'll leave you voting to you.
Okay.
So Commissioner Rebels, Commissioner Langley had to pick somebody up at the train station. He said he would be here. He would be here, but he may be a few minutes late.
Right, thank you. Okay. You should have also received copies of the minutes. So does anybody have any questions on the minutes?
I have a comment.
Okay.
They're very complete, very well done, and we got a lot of information from Major Hewitt during that last meeting.
Okay.
I think it's, what, 7 months ago.
Not quite that long, but yeah, it's been a while. Okay,
Very good.
thank you. Katie, you can pass that on? Or is that was yours? Yeah, and thank you.
I move the minutes be approved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second? Okay, second. Bill Davis? Yeah. Okay. The purpose of today's meeting is to see if we can come to a conclusion of what we would like to recommend to the full board of commissioners. You should have received the options that we have looked at over the last, I don't know, 2 years now. And so I think I would propose that we vote, the members of the committee vote on each one of these options. And we will go through them, and if there's questions on the options, we can go ahead and raise those questions at the time. But there's everything from option number 1 was to do nothing all the way to the new facility, detention center, and a new detention center with a new sheriff's office attached. So I would like to start with well, Jerry's not here.
Why don't you start with do nothing?
Okay. Start with the first option, which is to do nothing. And so we've got 4 + 2, 6 people voting on that. And you can see some of the issues that we have there with doing nothing. So those members that are on the committee, raise your right hand if you're in favor of doing nothing. Okay?
That's good.
That's good. Make us do something. Okay. The next option would be to just, within the existing footprint, renovate the lower level, and that means taking the basement of the clerk of the court and the register of deeds and turning those into cells and taking the existing area in the middle and doing some renovation to it. And then adding a sally port. That was the second option.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does that satisfy the segregation needs for male, female? It doesn't address it.
It will largely do that. Okay. If you look at the floor plan.
Get a certain number of females, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a block with 20 beds in it that you could use that. More importantly, it does give you the option of even more classification. Okay.
John, I think that is important, but going over the options, it doesn't lay out how many more beds may be added to the facility.
Okay.
Or, as you pointed out, whether the separation and classification needs to be. So, is that something we could quickly address?
Anything that we've done any of these options from renovate the lower level on down will address to a large degree the segregation of the prisoners. Okay?
Major Hewitt did make one comment when asked, how many more cells do you need? And I think his answer was, the more the better.
Yeah, he's behind you. Don't lie. So yeah, you're adding those cells, and it'll address the ability to segregate the prisoners in a much more efficient manner. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So this is, those in favor of just renovating the lower level and adding the sally port, raise your right hand. One, okay, right? Okay, the next option is to add a single-story addition. Now, you remember those plans to do that? Anybody want to see that?
That also includes building out the basement.
Yeah, let's do you want to do the overhead, Brian?
The building does not give you more. It shows what it is.
Okay.
And their lamp, although the lamp don't have one.
Should you do this earlier?
No, it's back. So I'm washing it out. It's about as good as gonna be.
Okay, can you see this? Okay. This here is the basement area. Okay, these are new cells down here that'll allow for the increased separation or categorization. Okay,
So for your reference, that's the existing ramp. You see the existing ramp right there? So get your reference for the building.
okay. You're coming up, right now, you're coming up this ramp, or going down that ramp, and coming in here. The magistrate's over here. So with this, you still, with this option of the single story, you still get the area down below renovated. You get the space that's in here that's currently the dormitory, which is moved to here. It's renovated and repurposed. And as you know, we have nothing in the jail right now that allows for officers in the jail to, say, take a shower if somebody spits on them or throws something on them or any of that. So we're providing that type of stuff. This is the addition here, one-story addition, okay, that moves the magistrate here. We provide the medical facilities here, and then this is the new intake area, along with the new visiting area. Okay.
So there are holding cells at the new addition.
These are holding cells right here. okay? Intake holding cells, processing. They could obviously be used for something else. This is new isolation cells over here.
This is what it looks like. That's what it looks like for the Sally Port.
Oh, yeah. And this would be the Sally Port extension, which is on the, oh, here.
Yep.
This is the Sally Port extension, and right now, the prisoners are unloaded almost in the parking lot and walked over. The purpose of the Sally Port is to go into an enclosed area in which you're closed, everything's inside, and you're able to take the prisoners out there and move them in. Okay? So before, I guess, we take a vote on this, the other option that is along with this, the other option that was presented is a I was just going to show the elevation. There you go. Is to,
Can you rank that, Brandon?
is to add a second floor, which at this point in time could be used for multiple different uses, including an option which I guess has been discussed. As most of you know, 70 to 80% of the inmates that are in jail are there with a mental health issue or a drug issue. I mean, our health department identified it at 71 or 72%. National statistics take it all the way up to 80%. So one option would be to provide cells in here that are specifically for those type of an inmate. Or you could do this top becomes the Recorder of Deeds office, because they'd be moved out of the basement. They would lose all that storage. So would the clerk of the court lose all that storage. And by moving the Recorder of Deeds out, the clerk could take over that area to make up for what they've lost in the basement.
Rural design that
No.
was not anticipating that to be a confinement area.
No, he didn't. Yeah. So,
What was that, Brian?
but that,
The architect, I think when the architect thought about that second floor, he was not anticipating that being a confined area, because that would impact the price of it.
but it is pretty much a wide open room that you could use for any purpose that we needed. And we know we got needs right now.
I think it was designed as office space.
Any questions? Okay, those are the two options when it comes to coming out the back. So those in favor of a single story with the Sally Port and then renovating the basement, please raise your right hand. Okay. The other option in this was the two-story. Would you raise your right hand? Okay.
You got one behind you.
Oh, one behind you. I guess I better get back up.
We could vote on more than one, I hope. I saw that.
Yeah, well, I can pass it on. I see benefit in single story.
Okay. So one on the single story, three on the two-story, four with me.
Yeah.
Okay. The last, that's one I'm voting on, the two-story. The last option, yes,
Commissioner Rebels, what's the square footage you're talking about on the two-story, if you were to move the register of deeds from this side of the courthouse to the other, what's the square footage of that area we're talking about?
That's about, it was a little over 6,000 square feet, which you're at about 3,500 right now between the two floors.
It's probably closer to 6,300
Yeah.
based on the notes that I've got.
Okay, then the last option is a whole new facility, and you can see the price on that. That isn't the last option, but that next option is a new detention center, 37,000 square feet. It is designed to hold 120, let's see, 20 to 80, where the two-story, any of the other renovations in the existing footprint would add 20 beds, so it would take it from, was 85 or 86 up to 106. Okay, so you can see what that one is. That would have to be off-site. It would be either at, in all likelihood, either at one of the two industrial parks. This does not include the price of land. Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, so is that non-negotiable? In other words, a new detention center, there's no way that that can go behind the existing courthouse.
When we met the first time to talk about it, and we brought the people in from the health department, we were trying to solve some of the issues in the basement. And our thought process was, is that whatever we built behind the courthouse in this addition could be used in the same footprint to add additional detention center space. In other words, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you could build and be able to use the one-story or two-story building that we're talking about in this plan here. And to answer your question, as far as I know, there's a big enough footprint to be able to do that all in one location.
I mean, my opinion on these options, and this may sound dumb, but my opinion on these options depends on where the money's coming from. I mean, if Beaufort County solely is having to pay for this, then I would lean towards the lesser expensive options. But in recent years, I mean, our North Carolina state budget, I've seen counties get $50 and $60 million in state budgets for entirely new courthouses. And so if the state or the federal government were to assist Beaufort County in funding a project, then I would be for having a whole new facility behind the courthouse that almost attaches to the back of the courthouse. That the courtrooms are not very functional. You know, the judges have to get off the bench, they have to walk down the hallway with the people that they're sending to jail. It's just not, it's not safe. And the courtrooms could be rearranged just a little bit to make them more functional for the 21st century. But I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of that if Beaufort County has got to foot the entire bill.
Right. We asked both Perry and Kidwell, Senator Perry and Keith Kidwell, to put, I think it was, I don't remember what the number was now, but put money into this coming up budget to fund a new jail for Beaufort County. To the best of my knowledge, they have not done that.
Seth, we asked them to consider like a phase 1 and phase 2. We broke it down and we used $22.4 million on the jail or detention center and $5.5 million on the sheriff and the 911 center, hoping that we would get one or the other. Could get all of it. But with the discussion they've been having on the budget, I'm not sure that we're going to have the money in this budget we had last year to go out to the individual counties is what I'm being told.
Well, I guess we would need to be able to articulate a need
Right.
for what we're asking. And so I guess that's what, part of what this committee's been doing for a long time, is trying to obviously determine what is the need. And then, I mean, if I were in the legislature, I would want to know that from the local folks before I went and put something in the budget. So I guess we're moving in that direction.
The only, well, two things I can tell you. In talking with Chip Hughes, who's the sheriff down in Craven, and they have their new jail, as you all know, and they've got $1 million courthouse nobody uses, courtroom. But he said, the most important piece of advice we can give you is to make sure your jail is adjacent to the courthouse. It cuts down on all kinds of problems that can come up. And he's dealing with that now, because he's got to transport his prisoners from, from out there at that new facility downtown again. So yes, that would be the desired thing, but I think Marty's going to tell you you're going to take up all his parking spaces.
Well, one thing is there's so many more video hearings now, and they've just installed seriously expensive equipment in all the courthouses. We're doing more and more hearings by video where you don't have to transport anybody anywhere.
That's first appearances?
Yeah.
How about beyond the first appearance?
Well, I've done some other hearings that way, and I think you're going to see more of it. You're going to see a lot more of it. I mean, now, Scott can tell you, he sends deputies to the mountains to haul somebody down here for a drive-my license for load case or something,
Right.
So, hopefully, some of that stuff's going to be taken care of. I think when it's been, it's all, they just spent $60,000 in our.
And I assume that translates to less time in the jail, too. If you're able to get them into a hearing faster.
I mean, I don't know, Seth's office is always having to send writs to get people to court, and a lot of times it's very important. Scott's got to go get them. And, he's got guys out on the road at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m.
And it's all in overtime, I agree.
And they pay overtime. So, I kind of agree with Seth about if you could build something behind the courthouse. But I think our first meeting, I said, I really think the jail's obsolete. Would a jail off-site, that, again, as Seth said, if we were getting some federal or state monies, I think that would be a big deal. We wouldn't, I'm not in favor of laying it on folks in Beaufort County, but, that would seriously help.
If we could get,
You put $8 to $10 million into what you've got, or you put that towards the 20-some of the new facility.
that's, yeah. And that's, I think, the issue that we're talking about. Yeah. There is, right now, we've got no pot of gold out there that the state legislatures decided to give us. So we're kind of stuck with deciding whether, I mean, the option to do nothing's still there on the table, which means wait and see if something happens down the road. So assuming, I guess, that we're in a state where we're paying for it at Beaufort County, or the citizens of Beaufort County are paying for it, all those in favor of a new jail, raise your right hand.
It'll just be me.
Okay? You aren't in favor of any of the other ones, I take it?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So, and then along with that, the new jail and the new sheriff's office,
That's still me.
okay? Okay,
The idea of their offices are obsolete too.
okay.
I do believe there is a need for it. In my mind, there's no question there's a need for it. And, I mean, I would like to see us push for that, but then approach the state and/or the federal government. And if we strike out, then that's a decision, obviously, that the commissioners will have to make a monetary decision, and possibly may not spend that much money if it's going to be on our backs.
Yeah, that's, and all we can do is, what we can do is continue to appeal to the state legislature and the federal government to support us in this. But in the meantime, is there something we ought to be doing? Or are we just going to wait? And I don't know the answer to that is what we've been trying to deal with and trying to figure out. And there's been no indication from the state legislature that they're going to put money into Beaufort County this time. And this is a 2-year budget that's coming up.
You know, and my whole thought process is this, you know, if you can do it for one county, you should be able to do it for all the counties. I mean, there are 100 counties, and you can't just pick and choose, well, we're going to build you a new jail and this new center and that new center, and then another county who has the same problems can't get the money. That's not fair. That's not right. So I think that we should really apply some pressure to some folk. And the money is there. The state of North Carolina has a excess, and so we should really be pushing to get the facilities that we need here in Beaufort County, and that's just the way I feel about it. I think it's time for the county to always be proactive in every move that we make. We've been circling the wagons and kicking cans for a long time, and it's time for us to be proactive and really meet the needs of Beaufort County.
I guess listening to the discussion, to me, one of the most important questions that I think we have to answer, that we have to try to come up with and get to a conclusion is where does it need to be long-term? 30 years, 50 years down the road. And I think what I'm hearing from the stakeholders that have to be involved on a daily basis, it's the footprint behind the courthouse. Maybe what we need to do, maybe our recommendation is that we proceed to design a footprint behind the courthouse and to come up with some plans that we can use to put some pressure on the state for funding. You know, I think it's kind of, you know, for us just to sit back and say we'd like to have a new courthouse, you know, you send us 30 million, I don't think it's going to cut it. I mean, I think we've got to say, this is our plan and this is what we're trying to do. And as Beaufort County citizens, we've got some money in a capital reserve fund, so we can put some money into it. You know, we're not asking you for 100%. We got in our capital fund 5.6 million. And that's not been earmarked for anything other than capital. So I guess what I'm hearing, Mr. Chairman, is that we don't want to take some interim step and do an addition behind the courthouse that, you know, is not going to solve the problem long term. Is that, Seth, and I mean, is that, am I summarizing it?
I think so. I mean, I do think that, I mean, I said to someone this morning when I was over, you know, in the courthouse, I said, I'll be retired before anything ever probably comes to fruition. But I do think long-term that there's going to be, the courthouse itself is going to need some renovations and some refiguring to bring it into the 21st century. And I think part of that plan would be expanding out the back side of it. Maybe even having the bottom remain as a parking deck.
Which is what Greenville did. They didn't tear the old courthouse down, but they did a lot of renovations to make it safer. Another concern is, I don't know how you're gonna hold court as you go through this building process over a period of year and a half to 2 years. I mean, how in the world are you gonna, except that we go try a murder case up there with all that going on all the time? And you can't stop the court and you can't stop the construction. So that's a concern.
So that begs for off-site, I would say. Now, you know, I think that the comment was made that if we were doing something to improve the situation, that the courts would try to figure a way around it, to work around it. I'm not sure what that means, and of course it depends on how the size of the project is and for how long it's going. But, okay. So I guess the question would be then, at least to eliminate one or the other, is there, knowing what you just said, is there a way to build it behind the courthouse?
I mean, that is the question in my mind.
Yeah, and I don't know as we can answer that, because I don't know what the, Hood, do you know what the ground is over there?
I've already done the footprint for a 96 unit to go behind the courthouse.
Okay,
It'll fit, but you gotta worry about parking and some other things.
but the ground will support it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You drive enough islands to support anything.
Well, gentlemen, if you go to North Hills and stay at the Renaissance Hotel, I mean, they're building right up almost a foot of the hotel. I mean, everybody does it. I mean, I don't think that that's a reason for us to move somewhere else. To me, we can find a way to build and still hold court.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say that when we first put those generators at the end of the court, there was a whole lot said by the judges every time that thing would kick on. And so now you're talking about like all-day construction every day, you're going to have that same problem. I'll just be honest with you, we had plans for the new detention facility, sheriff's office, EMS, and magistrate's office. And I still stand by it. I still live by it. And that won't work behind the courthouse. One of the things that, what I was saying earlier, is you don't need to build another landlocked project. I mean, you got to think long-term sometimes instead of always these short-term solutions to problems. When that courthouse was first finished, by the time they finished it, it was already outdated. And we don't need to continue on this same path. And certainly I don't wish for folk who come along after us and say, what were those guys thinking? I mean, because that's what we've said about the current courthouse. What were those guys thinking when they built this facility? And I'm just going to say it again. It's time for us to move forward. And I really feel that off-site is the best solution. You can take the sheriff's office, EMS, the detention, as well as, who else was it? And the magistrate, and build a nice facility where you can deal with segregation and officer safety and all the things that are really, truly important. I mean, I understand why people wanted to stay here convenient behind the courthouse, but to me, it's just not logical. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. I think we've had good discussion. I'm going to go back through and ask you to vote again, given the discussion that you've all just heard. Okay? So starting again, how many are in favor of doing nothing? Okay. How many are in favor of renovating the lower level and just adding the sally port? How many are in favor of a single-story addition and renovation of the current? Okay. How many in favor of a two-story addition and renovating the lower floor?
But I'll qualify it because I agree with the comments from Seth. That the money's coming elsewhere. I think that's the way we should go.
Okay.
And then whether it's behind the courthouse or Mr. Langley says separate, take it wherever you can get it. If somebody else is paying for it, I would go to a standalone facility.
Okay. Then the new jail facility behind the courthouse. Okay.
Can you vote for two?
Seth? Okay. New jail facility and new sheriff's office and on a new, remotely, not on the current floor. Okay. Okay. So the vote went 0 on doing nothing, 0 on just renovating. No, wait a minute. Did you vote for just renovating? No, you didn't.
Vote for option 3.
Yeah. 0 on renovating the lower level and adding a sally port. 1 on addition, adding a single addition. 4 on the two-story addition. 1 on a new detention center behind the courthouse, and 3 on a new detention center remotely with the sheriff's office. And I think what we heard is you guys need to get together and do some much more work lobbying to get money, and that could change the vote. Right? Is that correct, pretty much? Okay. So we will take this to the Board of Commissioners. We'll give them the results of the vote. We will also advise them of what we can do to at least try to figure out what we can do to lobby the legislature for additional funds to create a remote detention center and sheriff's office. Okay? Any other comments?
Well, I also think that with the recommendation, we should always keep in the back of our mind is that if the commissioners were to agree to do the two-story, that it be designed so that we still have room to do some additional building that may solve the problem long-term, so that we don't have to walk away from, an investment in a two-story building.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
Clarification. Was it 4 votes for the add the second story?
4 votes.
And the next on second page, is it 3 votes for the off-site?
Yes. 3 votes for the offsite with the new sheriff's office.
So the 4 votes is in your last statement, I believe, maybe I misunderstood.
Well, we'll give the full board the results of this vote.
Yes.
I'm not sure we're going to give them a recommendation of one way or the other. because I think this all hinges on whether or not we can get funding from the state legislature, and that we've got collectively figure out a way to lobby them. So if we do that, that's going to involve all of you in the room putting in the plug for those funds. And so we'll generate the letter. We'll ask you all probably to sign it. That is addressed to the state legislators that represent us. Okay, anybody else? Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all so much for attending.